Alright, here we are again. So I've done another run delivering biofuel out to the little outpost factories we have set up. And also took care of some minor things around here. Got some resources ready and remembered that there's a handful of things I wanted to take care of here. So I think there was some research somewhere I wanted to take care of. Yes, so it was occurring to me that power switches may actually be useful for some of the final setup of our coal power plant out there, so I'm going to go ahead and grab those.
Power switch unlocked. Fixit is proud to announce that the power switch facilitates power grid management through the application of the very latest advances in on-off switch technology. Fixit. It's fun to have power.
Indeed it is. And besides that, I also got another round of Fixit coupons. So I did this just by setting up the awesome sink with a container pointed into it and one little biomass burner. Oh boy. He's moving. Yeah, I just put in a handful of alien DNA capsules and some steel beams, steel pipes, reinforced iron plates, just small amounts to try to get us a small number of tickets to work with, because I wanted to unlock a few things. So one that I wanted to grab right away actually was these double ramp sets, and I think, well, you'll see, I've sort of finished setting up the coal generators and I'm starting to think about piping water in, and I think this will simplify the setup of at least the water pipes. So I'll grab those, and otherwise I think that Mark II wall outlets are an option now, so I wanted to grab those. And that leaves us with 3 to work with. Don't think I want to bother getting into lights right now, but I do think I want concrete foundations. I just think they look so much better than most of the, just metal plate foundations here. Okay. I think that's 10, so let's go ahead and get all of that. And get heading back. I don't think I took the tractor with me last time I headed out, so it's going to be a short walk. Alright, there it is, in all its glory. So, first of all, let me address, it occurred to me very soon after I stopped the last recording that I'm building twice as many coal generators as I said I was going to. I think I quoted 16 total, and I have 32 instead. So I think what happened there was at some point, I just started calculating things as though I only had one coal generator per blueprint, and I just figured, okay, alright, I need 8 blueprints to go down per section. So of course, I ended up with double the total number that I was planning on. So yeah, that's why I've got 12 water extractors now sitting over here. I am just going to try to build to that. And my reasoning for it is that I can always overclock the coal miners here up to double production. So that will cause them to consume more power. I want to say that double output correlates to like 250% power consumption. I guess we'll see. But, if it lets me double the total size of my power plant, then surely that extra power consumption is going to be worth it. My only concern, though, is that I won't be able to belt that much, at least not at first. So we're going to kind of build it with that much in mind, but I think I'll have to change out some belts eventually. I'll probably just leave like a whole section non-functional, at least at first. We'll see. I'll have to think about it. But, no harm in having some extra generators sitting there until we can get the belts to support it. And then this big old ramp here going all down the middle of the whole plant. That is what I am planning to pipe water on. So why don't we take a look? So yeah, we're going to need 12 water extractors to support this whole thing, which is quite a lot. I'm really hoping we can fit them on this small bit of water here. But I'm thinking that I will just pipe up water all the way up here. And I had mentioned before, it's not strictly necessary, but I do tend to like sort of piping my water to the highest point and then letting it flow back down from there into the machines. So what I'm thinking of doing is just continuing off the end here and having a few fluid buffers up here and just piping the water all the way up to this level into those fluid buffers and then sort of running it down underneath across the ceiling of this here and piping it into machines from there. And we'll see how that works, but I am hopeful. Oh yes, and I wanted the double ramps because of this. This jaggedy underneath of each of these ramps. If I can just avoid that, that would certainly be ideal. So yeah, as for water, I think that it's so when you start thinking about water, it's really easy to forget that pipes follow the same principle as belts, as in pipes have a cap on fluid throughput. So 300 meters cubed per minute of fluid can flow through a Mark I pipe. Let me continue this out before I forget. So I think that 200 meters cubed equates to 5 water extractors, because a water extractor is 120 meters cubed, and 300 divided by 120. Wait, no, excuse me. Clearly I am wrong. So it's two pipes equates to 5 water extractors. Okay, because yeah, 120 per. And am I right in thinking that for... I feel like I've got to double check all my numbers now. 45 meters cubed per minute, that should be the consumption of a coal generator. Times 32 divided by 120, 12. So yes, 12 water extractors. And it's 5... We'll fill 2 Mark I pipes. So I'm going to need a lot of pipes. I think that I would need to take up water through a different path. At least one full pipe up to, like, the sides. So we're gonna have to feed some off of... If we have one full pipe coming up on each side, then we need to pull off of a shared pipe that's coming all the way down from up there. Yeah, okay, so I think I like this. So I think what we'll do, one full pipe on each side, out on the far ends here. In the middle, we'll have 3 pipes. The outermost 2 will be full, and the inner one will be that 0.8 remaining water throughput. And so each of the full pipes will try to connect just serially to 6 machines, one after another. And then the remaining machine will have to connect to, or the remaining machines will have to connect to that final pipe, that middle pipe that's holding the 0.8. Okay. Hopefully that makes some amount of sense and works out. Alright, at least that lines up cleanly. So, now to think about actually placing water extractors. I'm gonna want 5 split between these 2 sides to give full pipes there. So I could easily do 1, 2, and then 1 in the middle over here. Am I going to be messing with myself if I do that? Maybe. I might need to route other pipes, like, over this walkway I've just put in. So maybe it's not the best idea, but I don't know, I like having this path that you can take right up through the middle of the factory. So I'll try to build around it, unless it becomes, very frustrating. Alright, well, let's start putting down water extractors. So I've always had a little bit of trouble getting these to line up exactly how I want them to in my head, with foundations and such. Because they just kind of, let's see, they're under production. They just kind of, they can be freely placed on the water, and if you hold control, it's not like they align to these foundations. I think that a simple way to get them lining up nicer is to go to logistics and to, put a pipeline junction, in a specific spot on a foundation, and that looks to me like it's right in the middle. And I want to say then that you can hold control to align to that junction, so at least that takes care of side to side. Front to back, though, I've always had trouble with. I've just kind of judged it based on when clipping occurs, and pulled back until the moment it turns blue. But that's not perfect. Let me experiment with another approach, because I think I've seen people take a foundation like this and go vertical and try to get it in just under the surface of the water, and then place a water extractor on it. Oh man, that's really awkward, but let's press H to get it at least locked in that position. It's just hard for me to tell. Oh, well, whoops, that's my bad. let's put one more out there and try to place a water extractor. Oof, it's hard for me to tell where I'm lining this up to. But it is at least kind of clicking to positions on the foundations. So let's lock it there. I think that's like 3 out. And I think that's looking good. We're getting the guideline here. So it's centered on the platform, so that's a good sign. Let's put that down. And then my inclination is to remove those foundations under it, if I can get the angle. Yes. Okay. Okay, so that might be a nice way to get a very consistent placement of these things. Again, you don't have to be this anal about it, but guess I am. At least while it is convenient to be so. I am not seeing any difference between these placement nodes, so let's just do auto. Yeah, there it is. Always takes just a second for those to appear. Okay, let's do vertical. Looking for 2, got 2. Copy that out to... Okay, let's go place the one that should be shared between these 2 lines, because again, we're looking to get 5 water extractors divided between 2 pipelines. So that means 2 on this side, 2 on that side, 1 in the middle. So let's try to get this one like exactly in the middle. Okay, I think that looks good. These are so close to each other, I hope that the pipeline doesn't complain. Well, I mean, it complains about that, but I don't want you to connect there. Okay, auto 2D works just fine. That's so interesting. Noodle is fine. Horizontal to vertical freaks out. Auto freaks out. Guess we'll go auto 2D. A little bit awkward since that junction is wider. But hopefully we won't, Did I just... Yeah, okay. Alright. Let's not talk about it. I'll just, put this in the proper position. Yeah, okay. I think that should be nice and symmetric. So yeah, the idea is that we'll have these 2 outputting directly to this line, those 2 outputting to the other side, and then that one splitting its output between the 2. Now, obviously, like, pipes don't just flow in one direction, at least not without some valves and such. So there's a possibility, like when these start outputting, they'll just be outputting to the full pipe and it'll back up to here. But I believe it should work out fine because, each of these is outputting a certain volume. And I think that so long as there are routes for the water to take to fill, cleanly, I believe it should work out. What I could do as well is put pumps sort of on each side. The idea is that pumps sort of are a one-way valve. Once the water passes beyond that pump, it can never return again. And that can help alleviate some weird, like, backflow issues and such, where like the output from these could start conflicting with the output from this one, and same on the other side. So if we start running into weird flow issues where we don't seem to be getting full flow through these side pipes, I will probably start by doing that. Just come here and placing a pump on either side of this junction to make sure that the output of these pumps can't flow to this junction and potentially interfere with the output of this one. That's my thinking. Okay. Looks good to me, so that's a nice... Should be 2 full pipes once I, actually pipe them up there. And now I need to start thinking about where all my other water extractors can go. So yeah, that should be 2 full pipes right at the edge of the foundation. Looks good. Okay. So hey, we've gotten 10 water extractors placed, 2 full pipes worth set up. That's a great start on this, and yeah, clearly I'm not going to have any issues finding placement spots for these water extractors, so that's really nice. So yeah, just another 2 more. Cool. All right. So yeah, 2 of these. These provide enough head lift to do this, right? Head lift 10 meters. Okay. So yeah, we haven't really talked about head lift. I mean, it's intuitive that you need pumps to lift water up, to an extent, but it's worth going into more detail. So yeah, like when this says head lift 10 meters, it means that so long as the pipeline doesn't rise above 10 meters, then the water this outputs can follow it. It can rise up to 10 meters high. And just to confirm, so that I'm not surprised by it, I think this is probably less than 8 meters, and I'm going to judge that by foundations. Because I think that this is roughly in line with the output of that water extractor. So if I place 2 of them, they're 4 meters thick, because I was using, the 4-meter foundations. And we can see, gosh, can I clear this? That the pipe is totally encased by those. The top of those is well over it. So the rise of this pipe here should not be over 10 meters. So we shouldn't need a pump to ensure that water continues to flow through here. As opposed to here, where I put the pumps just to enforce directionality of flow, basically. Normally, you use them to actually lift water. Okay. So now, I think it's just a matter of piping these all the way up to their target locations. So let's give that a try. Just going to continue to build in auto mode, and I'll just basically take this out as far as it will go. Pipe is too long, so let's put the next set of junctions here. Why not? Okay, looking good. I don't have the modular frames required to build more fluid buffers. Only got that one up there. But I intend for each pipeline to go into its own independent fluid buffer, and then sort of loop over and start going into machines from there. Well, we'll see how it turns out. Strictly speaking, the fluid buffers aren't necessary. I just think that seeing those things fill up is sort of a good visual indicator. And, if I do cut power at some point to the water extractors, it does give you a little bit of breathing room. Just a little bit, though. Okay, well, I'll head back, get some more modular frames, get some fluid buffers added to the top here, get the pipes looped around underneath, and try to figure out how that flow is going to work. Getting all these machines hooked up. All right. Hopefully see you soon. All right. I've done a fair bit of prep of the coal power plant here. The biggest change is going to be all the piping is now done, or more or less done. I still have to put pumps in on these vertical sections here, and I figure I'll go through that with you because, getting a sense for pump head lift takes a bit of getting used to. Frankly, I probably won't get it quite right the first time, but I'm going to try to be overly generous with my pump placement, I think. But first, I figure I'll talk about the piping setup, because I'm sure it looks pretty complicated. These, overhead sections were nice and simple, but then actually hooking up to the machines had some nuance to it. So I guess first here, let me start with this pipe here. So if you remember, this is one of our split lines that has 5 water pumps on it in total. Water extractors, that's the term. So we've got that one in the middle there, these 2, and then a symmetrical pair on the other side that are all hooked up to the same line. And the idea is that should result in, well, there's nothing to look at right now, but it should result in a total flow rate of 300 meters cubed per minute. And if we do some math here, each coal generator consumes 45 meters cubed per minute, so 300 divided by 45 is 6 2/3. So yeah, this can completely saturate, yeah, that's probably the best term for it, completely saturate 6 coal generators with water, and then it can partially saturate a 7th, but it can't do it totally. So the way that I've hooked this up is, you'll see this line goes through a fluid buffer. That's to give me, again, well, a bit of a buffer if the water extractors shut down, but also to give me basically a way to kind of check the health of the fluid circuit, if you will. So that line comes from the fluid buffer through this floor, and then I used a series of these junctions to split off to various machines. So here I just put the junction right above the floor hole leading down, and then here I put the junction sideways and let it off to this floor hole. And the way this pipe is hooked up, it hits 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 machines, and only then, before it goes into the 7th, does it split off and join up with our shared line. This is a concept I was talking about before, but we've got 4 full lines. We've got 4 pipelines that should be hitting their max throughput, and then we've got 1 more, which originally runs up the middle of this ramp, and that contains the little bit of excess that's needed to get these these sort of last few generators running, last 4 specifically, because each full line can handle 6 2/3. So if you think about it that way, there's a third of a coal plant that still needs to be saturated once each line of 300 is completely consumed. So, oh man, I've got a cat showing up. Oh boy. But that last, so if you've got 4 full lines, and then each has a third of a plant that it can't fully saturate, you end up with 4 thirds. So 1 1/3 of a plant that need to be completely saturated. So if we do like 45 times 1.33333, is that correct? I think that's correct. Let me think about this just for a second, because oh, I see. So I wonder if I'm doubting myself on the math now. But yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, going to a 7th, which needs to get a little bit of extra. Yeah, so there'll be 1 1/3 plus 1, 2, 3, 4 that basically aren't fed at all off of this 300 per minute pipe, because they because we have 32 total. Okay, gosh, I'm losing myself in the math here, but I hope that makes sense. So we have 1.3 plus 4 times 45, and that's not going to be exact, because this is actually like 3 recurring there, but I put enough digits on it that it rounds out. So that gives us a requirement of an extra 240 meters cubed per second, which is coming from those last 2. It's that water extractor and that water extractor, which join up and form that middle pipe. And that is why I have set up the pipes in this way. So sort of the idea here, and I don't know that it would be a problem. This might just be like pipe superstition, which seems to be pretty common in this game, because piping fluids is complicated, and so I kind of feel like a lot of players have like superstitions about how pipes work. But to sort of explain the logic here, I don't want a situation in which the output coming through one of these pipes, like this 300 per minute pipe, causes a backup in our shared pipe. I don't want that to happen, which is why I've kind of set up these junctions with a little bit of height to them. So the idea here is that if we have 300 per minute coming in on this line, and it's hooked up to 7 coal generators, and they're all running, it should be impossible for this line to overflow up into this pipe. So because this whole section is level, and it has enough generators running to consume all of its throughput, it should be impossible for there to be back pressure. Like, essentially, it should be impossible for this to overflow up into this line and start conflicting with the throughput of this pipe that's hanging up higher up here. Now, I don't know that would necessarily ever be a problem because of how I've designed it in terms of having everything flow in up high and then drop down into machines. Again, sort of the logic there is that if we look at the levels of these things, let's use Zoop to give us a sense of that. So I'm pointing at a spot that is below that fluid buffer up there. And if we drag this across level, you can see that all of the junctions, all of the, including this shared junction here, is below the level of that fluid buffer. So the point is that if that fluid buffer fills at all, in order for that to start filling, everything below it has to be completely full of water. And that tends to help, or at least, again, superstition, but it seems to help these sorts of systems run more smoothly, where you are guaranteeing that, like, before you get any kind of backup, before you get any kind of reduction in the flow rate of your input line, you are guaranteeing that, like, every machine that is going to be fed off that line has to be full of water before it can back up to start essentially putting back pressure on your input and interfering with the ability of the water extractors to output down there. Again, all of that relies on having enough pumps going up this hill to guarantee that it's not going to stop partway up. But so long as it's flowing the whole way up, it should have to fill every machine before it starts, conflicting, before it starts filling this fluid buffer and preventing further flow through this pipeline. Hope that makes some sense. I suspect that with this design, these sort of like lifted shared junctions aren't necessary. I just build them just in case. Again, I do have some pipe superstition. The first time I tried to build a coal plant of this kind of scale, I ended up with weird fluid mechanics situations where I wasn't getting the output that I thought I should. I think I eventually tracked it down to like a couple of pumps that were exceeding their head lift by like 10% or something like that, but it was enough to make everything just a little funky. Hoping to avoid that this time around. But yeah, that's the reasoning for these fluid buffers up here, and the reasoning for these slightly lifted junctions is to try to prevent the output of these lines from interfering with the shared line until the machines that they're targeting have filled completely. And then it's a very similar setup up here. So yeah, like over here there's a 300 per minute full line going in and filling, and then it's the shared line that hits the last two machines all on its own, and then should overflow into the shared one that they both need to be filling. And over here, it's a very similar setup. So here's one of the full lines. This time it's one of the two that is on this middle ramp. And it goes through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 machines. And then there's a similar shared junction set up here. Sorry, I'm getting some mild hiccups. Hopefully it's not coming through. But yeah, here's the shared line, which, so yeah, because this is the 240 per minute line coming back, it splits off here to hit the shared machines, but then it also continues down to the second layer of coal generators to hit those shared machines. And yeah, this junction here I'm pretty proud of. I think it turned out really well. So yeah, here's the shared connection off the 300 per minute lines, again raised up. The idea hopefully being to avoid too much backflow contention issue. And then here's the ones that are fed entirely off that shared line. Now I do kind of wonder if instead of having these pipes raise up to a junction on the shared line, I should have had those junctions split off to a single pipe and then put a raised section of pipe in. The point I'm trying to make is, while these lines can't interfere with the shared line, I do wonder if the shared line could have some flow coming down here too soon, interfering with the fill-up of some of these machines from the 300 per minute line. But I'm hoping we'll be fine. Again, I think my fluid buffer, have the water come in at a very high level and then drain into everything. I think that setup should help avoid any issues, even if I haven't totally thought through this junction. In case anyone is interested, because it took me a while to figure out how to get a junction set up like this. The way that I did that is I took a foundation like this, and I lined it up like right in the middle where I wanted the junction to come down. Something like that. I'm not sure if that's exactly, it's not exactly aligned, but you'll still get the idea. And then I took a pipe. Let's just put one on the side here. Oh yeah, well first I took a floor hole, actually. So I dropped in a pipeline floor hole there, and then I just deleted this foundation. And you'll see that that floor hole made a connection through that foundation, but then stopped. It didn't go any lower, which is fine, because we're just using it as a base to build off of. Then I took a pipeline, and I piped it down like that. And then I took a junction, and I put it like that. Obviously, it was straight down over here, and I'm referring to like this junction in this case. And then I just deleted the floor hole and the little pipe segment. And then, I just took like another junction and put it partway up. Oh, I'm out of copper sheets. That's very funny. But hopefully that gives you an idea. That's how I got a pipeline that terminated in a junction real easy. And I think that gave this a pretty nice look for such a complicated little interchange of pipes here. Besides that, I did go ahead and put down miners here, and you can see I put foundations under them to try to make it look a little nicer. Got kind of a bird infestation going on here. They're just lurking all over this power plant. I don't know what their deal is, but they're all over the place. And so I've got those two, and then I've got these two over here. And I did also run some degree of foundations underneath here, just to give me more building room, if desired. Even more birds. My gosh. And I also, when I ran these foundations under, I realized I might want a way to get in between these levels of like the main power plant floor and this sort of subfloor section. So I just ran some ramps up here and then deleted these ramps that were connecting these two sections to give this nice, at least I think, sort of symmetrical, section here where you can go up and down as you see fit. And I have just started to think about running coal into all of these generators. And I think I'm going to do it via a setup like this, with just like some floor holes off to the side here, going up to a conveyor, running to a belt that I then run along the manifold. I do want to point this out in case it, I remember getting very confused about belt direction as soon as I started building these elevated belts, off of ceilings. So I wanted to point out that if I take a belt like this and I run it this way, say, let's lift it up. So, if I run it this way, you can clearly see, looking at it, that the belt is running left to right. When you look at the underside, though, the underside runs right to left. And that's just like a sort of realism thing, because if you imagine how an actual conveyor works, you have like the belt going along the top, and then when it gets to the far side, it loops underneath and goes back the other direction. But I just wasn't really expecting the game to have that little realistic nuance to it. So the first time I started building elevated belts like this, and I saw them running from there to there, I assumed that meant that the belt was, running in that direction, that resources would flow in that direction. That's not true. It's the opposite. Just wanted to point that out because that's something that I distinctly remember tripping me up the very first time I tried to set up something like this before. So, let's go along here and just run this belt down the manifold. And I'm going to point out, so this is a Mark II belt because I'm going to be, again, because I overbuilt everything, I'm going to be overclocking those miners to do 120 per minute output. So, again, I need a Mark II belt to support that. And I'm going to switch to Mark I halfway down the line here, because I'm going to be hitting, well, here, I guess I'll just point out, like, I'm going to be hitting 8 machines, and each consumes 15 per minute. I think I left some coal in here specifically so I could see the rate. Yeah, 15 per minute coal. So if I take 120 divided by 15, that's 8 machines. So, of course, 4 machines will consume 60 per minute. So basically what that means is once I've fed 4 machines with this belt, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, it is now safe to switch to a Mark I belt, because that line should have lost 60 per minute resources. The other miners, or the other generators rather, will have consumed 60 per minute off of that belt. So it should be safe to just run at a rate of 60 per minute from there. And just to double check myself, so yeah, there's where the Mark I starts, and that should hit 1, 2, 3, 4 machines. And again, I don't need a splitter at the end here because I'm not continuing the line, but I don't really see an issue with it. It makes the whole thing look nice and uniform, so I'm just gonna leave it there, and that's fine by me. So I think I'm just gonna hook up that same setup across the rest of our coal, making sure to use Mark II conveyor lifts as well, so that I don't bottleneck on the lift coming out of the ground. That would be bad. Okay, so I think that's everything hooked up through floor holes. Now, I do need to figure out how I want to handle actually getting coal piped to these belts. So maybe I'll do a bit of thinking on that and come back here in a moment once I've got something set up. Just to give you an overview, what I'm just planning to do is run the output from one miner to each of these lifts on the underside using Mark II belts and a Mark II lift coming out the bottom. God, I'm getting so much wildlife under here. But yeah, I will go try to figure that out and hopefully be back soon. that's going to be the end of today's episode. Thank you all for joining me, and I hope to see you in the next one.